InnService is a web app for communication in a hotel that uses guests and staff members' cell phones as the hotel phone system. Some of the benefits of this solution are that it allows for communication with guests not only by voice but also by text, and that staff members can receive and respond to messages while on the move around the hotel. I've just received a new InnService account for the Sleepy Time Hotel, and I'm going to show how to set it up and use it. First, go to InnService.net and sign in with your username and password. We are immediately taken to the main screen for the front desk, but before we can use this, we need to go and set up some of our settings. So click up here on the Settings button. At the top of the screen, we see two settings that we cannot change: the account name and the account number. This is the name that guests will see in communications with us, and this is the phone number that will be used for text and voice communications back and forth with the guests. Next, we have the incoming call greeting. This is the message that a checked-in guest will hear when they call our account number. Here, we want to give the guests some instructions about what they can do in the call. For example, I'm going to put here, "Thank you for staying at the Sleepy Time Hotel. To talk to the front desk, press 1. To order room service, press 2. To set a wake-up call, press 3. It's usually a good idea to repeat these instructions in case the guest missed them the first time, so I'm going to copy my message and paste it again. Now, let's go down to the redirect numbers section and fill this in right away. In our instructions, we told the guests that they could press 1 to talk to the front desk. So I will enter the phone number that goes directly to the front desk here in the 1 box. Keep in mind that this can be any phone number. If the staff member at the front desk uses a cell phone to receive calls, go ahead and enter the cell phone number here. Next, we included in our message that the guest can order room service by pressing 2. So I'll type in the 2 box the number that goes to the kitchen or the bar. Finally, we told the guest that they can set up a wake-up call by pressing 3. So I'll type the word wake up as all one word here in the 3 box. Then I click the Save button to make sure I don't lose any of my work so far. Now let's go back up and look at the check-in and check-out messages boxes. These are the messages that will be sent to the guest as SMS messages or emails at the time they check in or check out. For the check-in message, I want to remind the guest that they can use this phone number to contact the front desk either by voice or by text at any time. So I'll type in for the check-in message, "You have been checked in to the Sleepy Time Hotel. At any time, you can reply to this message or call this phone number, 505-404-6700, to contact the front desk. Enjoy your stay." Now, for the checkout message, besides thanking the guest for staying with us, I might also want to include a web link to the hotel website, instructions for how to make another reservation, or perhaps a link to a survey that the guests can take about their stay, or write a review. Web URLs typically show up on a guest's phone as a clickable link they can simply tap on to be redirected. I'll click Save, then we'll move on to a few more settings. The SMS forwarding number is a cell phone number to which all incoming guest messages will be copied and forwarded. So if you have an administrator or manager on duty who would like to keep track of all incoming messages, you might add their cell phone number here. Select the correct time zone for your property over here. The time zone is used for sending out wake-up calls at the correct time and also for correctly logging the time of all incoming and outgoing messages in the log. Next, the checkbox Persistent Notifications determines how the computer notifies the user of a new received message. If this box is not checked, then the computer will make a pling noise just once when the new message is received. If this box is checked and then the settings are saved, then when a new message is received, the computer will continue plinging until the new message is replied to or marked as read. Next to the Save button is a button for downloading a log file. Every time a message is received or sent, information about the message is saved in a log. We can click this button to download a CSV file containing this log information. After we've sent a few messages in this video, we'll come back to this button and see what the log looks like. Down here at the bottom, we have the ability to manage sub-accounts and staff. A sub-account is a separate user of InnService for the same property, which has its own ability to send and receive messages. It's often useful to have sub-accounts for different departments of the hotel. For example, I'm going to create sub-accounts for room service, maintenance, and housekeeping. I will give this login information to the staff members in charge of these departments. Finally, we can add staff members. Staff members have two special abilities. First, staff members can send text messages directly to guests who are checked in from their cell phones. Second, staff members can talk to guests by calling the account number and then typing in the room number they want to talk to. I'll add a staff member now so I can show you an example of how this works. Okay, let's click the Save button one more time to make sure everything's saved. Then click on Home at the top of the screen. Here in the Home screen, we have two main sections. The top section is for checking guests in and out and for sending messages. The bottom section is for viewing and responding to received messages. When a guest arrives, we type in their information up here. We type in their first and last name and then either a cell phone number or an email address or both and the room they are checking into. We can also set a time for a wake-up call if the guest would like to receive a wake-up call. Keep in mind that a guest must have a cell phone number entered in order for the wake-up call to work. The wake-up call will be placed on the guest's own cell phone. We can also enter categories for the guest, if applicable. For example, if we are hosting a wedding at the hotel, we can tag the guest with the category Wedding. Or if there's a conference, we can tag the guest with Conference. Once we've created a category by typing it in, it will appear in this drop-down list, so we can easily tag future guests with the same category. We can also tag guests with more than one category. If a guest should happen to be here for both the wedding and the conference, we can indicate that by separating the categories with commas. Wedding, conference. Now, when we click Add, the guest is added to the list and receives our check-in message on their cell phone if we provided a cell number, and by email if we provided an email address. Once a guest is added to the list, we can always edit their information by clicking on them, changing the information here below, and then clicking Save Edits. Let's take a look at the message the guest received. Notice that the guest can now easily reply to this message by text. Let's see what happens when the guest does this. The guest's message appears here in the Received Messages box, and the computer makes a pling noise. The message is highlighted in green, indicating that it is a new message that I haven't replied to yet. The message line shows the guest's name, the date and time the message arrived, the phone number or email address the message came from, and the room number the guest is checked into. When I click on the message, I can see both their message and the last message I sent to the guest in these boxes below. I now have some options for how to respond. I could type a message into the Your Message box and click the Send Your Message to Selected button to directly reply to the guest. I could decide that this message should be sent to a sub-account like housekeeping. To do that, I select the housekeeping sub-account up here and then click forward. The message disappears from my list and is sent to housekeeping. Keep in mind that these controls to forward the sub-accounts will only appear if you have already set up sub-accounts. So if these controls don't appear on your screen, go to Settings and set up your sub-accounts first. Now, let's log in as the housekeeping sub-account and see what happened from that side. Here, we see that the message has appeared as a new message for housekeeping. Housekeeping has the same abilities to respond to messages that the front desk has. We can respond to this message, mark it as read, or forward it on to a different account if the message reached us by mistake. Also, although we cannot check guests in or out, or edit their information, all of the guests currently checked into the hotel appear in our guest list, and I can send messages to the guests by clicking on them, typing in a message, and clicking Send to Selected. Now, it may be that I, as head of housekeeping, am not always sitting by a computer, and I would like to be able to get these messages on my cell phone as I am moving around the hotel. So while I'm logged in as housekeeping, I'm going to go to Settings. I will type in my cell phone number as the SMS forwarding number and click Save. Every sub-account can have a different SMS forwarding number. Now, when a new message comes in for housekeeping, I get a text message on my cell phone that looks like this. Now, since I am also in the system as a staff member, I can now directly contact this room from my cell phone also. I can see in this message that it came from room 114. So I'm going to send a message that says star 114 star, I am on my way with your towels. The star 114 star identifies what room I want the message to go to. The guest or guests checked into room 114 receive a message that says, I am on my way with your towels. Back in the main InnService screen, we see that guests can be contacted from this main InnService screen also. We can click on one or more guests, then type a message into the message body box. Then we can click Send to Selected to send the message to the guests we have selected. Or we can click Send to Everyone if we want the message to go to every guest checked into the hotel. We can also send a message only to guests who are associated with a particular category. For example, I could select Wedding from this drop-down list and then click Send to Category to send the message only to guests who are tagged in the wedding category. We also have the ability here to send messages internally, not to guests. If we type a message in the message body box and select one of our sub-accounts like housekeeping or maintenance and click this button, Then the message will be sent to that sub-account. They can, in turn, send messages back to us in the same way. Finally, let's take a look at voice calls. If a checked-in guest calls the account number, then this is what they hear. This time, I will set a wake-up call for myself.
Thank you for staying at the Sleepy Time Hotel. To talk to the front desk, press 1. To order room service, press 2. To set a wake-up call, press 3. Again, thank you for staying at the Sleepy Time Hotel. To schedule a wake-up call, enter the hour followed by the star key, then the minute followed by the pound key. You have successfully scheduled a wake-up call for 5:15 in the morning. Thank you. Goodbye.
Now, back in the InnService main screen, we can see that a wake-up call has been set for the guest because a time now appears in the wake-up column. After the wake-up call is placed, this message will appear as placed. Staff members can also call rooms to talk to them by voice by dialing the account number. Let's listen to what they hear.
Please enter the room number followed by the pound sign.
Now, when it's time for a guest to check out, we click on their line here and click the delete button. The guest receives a text message and/or email with our checkout message. Now, before we sign off for the day, let's take a look at our log. I will sign back in as the main account and then go to Settings and click the button called Download Log. A CSV file is downloaded to my computer. I have Excel installed on my computer, so for me this file will open in Excel. Because we're signed in as the main account, we will see log entries for the main account and also for all of our sub-accounts. If a sub-account downloads a log file, they will receive only the log entries for their own sub-account. The log includes all communication done through InnService for the last 30 days. Records older than 30 days are archived and are available upon request. Thanks for watching this Introduction to InnService video. If you'd like more information or to set up your own account, send an email to information@innservice.net. Thanks.